Hey guys, it's Vandell with Gentry Investment Properties. Now, many of you already know, or if you heard the news about the eviction crisis that's going on in the United States. Now, we hear these stories, and most of them come from a renter's point of view. But I want to bring another point of view from the landlord. So stay tuned, and I'll give you my thoughts. Okay, let's talk evictions. First off, no landlord ever wants to really evict a tenant. We don't want to move people into our homes just looking forward to the day that we get to kick them out. That's not what we're about. Landlords hate evictions. Most hate evictions more than the actual renter. Evicting a tenant costs the landlords money. Not only do the landlords miss out on the rental payments that are owed to them, but they also have to pay court costs and attorney's fees. Now, most evictions cost the landlord between 2 and 3 months of rent. That's why most landlords have a very rigorous tenant screening process. Another reason why landlords hate evictions is turnover. Each time a tenant leaves, landlords have to pay to restore the property back into rentable conditions. This typically takes between $2,000 and $4,000. So not only are you missing 3 months of rental payments, you also have to pay to restore the property. So let's just say your rent was $1,000 and you skipped 3 months of rent. That's $3,000. We take you to court and we win. We pay the court costs. We pay the attorney's fees. So right there, we were already back up to about $7,000. Then we have to pay to restore the property into rentable condition. That's again between $2,000 and $4,000. So all said and done, we're looking at almost $10,000 just to evict somebody. So for all of those people who think landlords are rich and forgive my rent movement and cancel the rent and all that, I feel like you're very misguided and lack understanding, which is why I'm making this video to bring knowledge and understanding from a landlord's perspective. Now that we have established that landlords hate evictions, we have to admit that they are a necessary evil. Sometimes as landlords, we have to evict for a number of different reasons, but the number one cause of evictions in the United States is non-payment of rent. Now, a few days ago, the CDC, along with the Trump administration, has issued a nationwide eviction moratorium. Now, what does this mean and why are landlords so upset? Well, it means you can't evict a tenant due to non-payment of rent. This is meant to protect those individuals who have been hit the hardest financially by the coronavirus. Now, many have lost their jobs, and we totally understand. They have reduced hours, etc., and they can't truly afford their rent. Again, we understand as landlords. But there are also those who have not been affected financially by the coronavirus, or they truly can afford to pay their rent. And they're just taking this as an opportunity to skip out on the rent that they can truly afford. Now, when a tenant does not pay rent, mortgages still have to be paid. Insurance still has to be paid. Utilities has to be paid. And property taxes have to be paid. Gentry Investment Properties is based in Tennessee. In Tennessee, property taxes are due October the 1st of every year. Now, the same government who will not let landlords evict tenants still expect their property taxes from said landlords. Now, we don't get a moratorium from these. They're still due. Now, don't pay your property taxes and see what happens. Now, the city will take your property quicker than the bank will take your property if you don't pay the bank. Recently, I had to replace the AC unit in one of our properties. Now, this tenant has not paid rent for the last 3 months, But because of the moratorium that is in place, not only can I not evict them, but I also have to fix the AC for free. Now, whether this person has been truly affected by the coronavirus financially, or they're just profiting from the system. But most small mom and pop landlords, such as we are, we can't afford to keep up without the rent payments coming in each month. So when the rent is not being paid, it does hurt a lot of different people. The government is basically, by this moratorium, the government is basically asking small landlords such as Gentry Investment Properties to subsidize our tenants from our own pockets. Now, putting a temporary halt on eviction sounds good in theory. Contrary to popular belief, most landlords are not heartless. We do care. We all can agree that those who are truly unable to pay their rent shouldn't be thrown out on the streets. Pausing evictions does not get the rent paid, but it does ensure that people don't go homeless. The problem with pausing evictions is not that all landlords are these giant corporations with deep pockets. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, around 2.2 million rental units are owned by small mom and pop individual investor. Many may only own 1 or 2 units as a strategy to help cover some of their living expenses during their working years or in retirement. Now, many landlords have mortgages on these properties that they have chosen to invest in, and in many cases, the rent barely covers the mortgages, let alone enough to even skip out on a missed rent payment. Now, I know it's not easy to have empathy for someone who might own several different rental homes, but keep in mind that most small investors, they make a sacrifice to get into the real estate market in the first place. Now, buying rental property usually takes about 20% down in today's market. So small-time investors frequently save up for years just to come up with that money. So not only are they have to put the 20% down, small-time landlords are also on the hook for repairs and upgrades to the property. And if you do get a tenant that does not take care of the property and causes damage, the landlord is responsible for that. And many mom and pop landlords just don't have that kind of money lying around. And that's especially true even now because a lot of smaller landlords have been affected from the coronavirus as well. So you got tenants who've been affected, some of them, as well as landlords who are affected. So when rent isn't being paid, it causes a bubble effect, and it does affect multiple people. So while it might be easy to gloss over the fact or assume that all landlords are financially well off, the statistics and stories that many landlords share is that that's not the case. The reality is many landlords do use those rent payments to cover the mortgage and pay for property taxes while the insurance is still due and all of that. So what's my final thought? I think asking the federal government to step in with a voucher type program that lets renters avoid evictions without asking the landlords to subsidize the housing. Just like the government is subsidizing individuals with stimulus checks and businesses with the PPP loans, it's not unheard of for the government to step in with the voucher programs for housing. This is typically referred to as Section 8. Now, this video was not meant to cause controversy, but again, to shed some light from a landlord's point of view. And add one more note, the rent is not canceled. The rent is still due. It simply becomes a question of when it's going to be due and if it can be paid. I mean, if the eviction moratorium is going to go all the way until December of 2020, January 20, 2021, we're going to see these mass evictions happen again. All you're doing is pushing it back because you know, the rent is not canceled. You're still going to owe $7,000 or $6,000 or whatever your mortgage is in February, right after Christmas. So you can still be evicted. It's just a matter of when. Now, I truly hope that you learned something from this video. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care.